It's nice to be in a group of conservative thinking people, there's no question about it. Randall said, tell you a little bit about myself, give you a little political background because I've kind of been involved with this thing, and you know I'm on KPRL, and I've been a talk show junkie now since I was the age of 13. I might surprise many people. A 13-year-old listening to talk radio shows in Chicago, that's what you did, because that's where I'm from. But I came up to the North County about 12, 13 years ago from Thousand Oaks. Thousand Oaks, I was council member and mayor of the city down there for 4 years, so I've got a little background in government administration and knowing what's going on. When I was asked to speak about some of the propositions, I thought I'd pick the three which I feel are important because you can associate most of these propositions with one another in some capacity because they're all linked the same way. Now, the first thing is that there are bonds on these propositions. How do you spell bond? T-A-X. In this case, some of the bonds are self-imposed, meaning you're willing to vote for them or not vote for them, or the other, they're just imposed on you by the government. So you have to make a decision, and you have to decide what's taking place. I know that in California, we are really under stress right now from all directions. It isn't just the taxes, the drought. So I think everybody, it doesn't make any difference what side of the aisle, they're looking for this coming year a wet environment. And what do I mean by wet? Water, energy, and taxes. We're under duress with water. And we got Proposition 1 on the ballot, which is about water, or at least you think it might be about water. We're not going to talk about energy, but we are going to talk about taxes because the other part is the taxes that are taking place, particularly to us here in the North County. You've got, and these are the three I'm going to talk about. Prop 1, the water bond, the Cuesta College bond, and bringing it right here home, the Atascadero School bond. Because then you can find the nexus and make a decision on some of the other propositions if you read through them. And that's the key, is to read through them. So we are looking for this wet environment. We need the water. We need some energy. And of course, we want relief from taxes. It doesn't seem like it ever stops. It's a never-ending give us the money kind of thing. So let's talk about the water bond. $7.54 billion. Now that is a huge amount of money. But let's not be fooled on this. There's no water in the bond. It's pretty dry and cut. There's no water in there whatsoever. And you're not going to get it for your money either. I could sum it up in 3 or 4 words. It's a sham. And I'll tell you why I believe it's a sham on the water bond. They're asking for a great many things, and they try to separate it out of there so that you get this feel-good attitude that, oh, I'm going to get some of this, I'm going to get some of that, but you're not getting anything. They talk about water storage. Well, there hasn't been much in the way of water storage in the state of California, ground surface water storage, for a very long period of time. In fact, one of the biggest problems that a lot of ag people have is that the minute they put a pond on their property, what does it become? A wetlands. And it's not because the duck landed in the water. It's because the duck flew over the water and thought about landing in the water. So it's, the liberals are always betting on it could happen. It might do it. It might be. Well, that's not what's going to happen. You're not going to get water storage. And besides, all those environmentalists out there, friends of Governor Brown, we need a brownout, are going to chomp onto this and say, oh no, we can't allow for any more of that because there might be some destruction of other types of properties, even though they are in favor of endangered species. And the other, of course, is if you manage to get any water storage in place at all, how long is that going to take? We all know that's not going to happen overnight. And right now, the water storage in the state of California the water shortage in California is now. Now, in some respects, The water shortage is not as great as you think it is. It's a matter of distribution. Because many places have more water than others. Water has a tendency to shift. At any one given time on the planet, the water level remains exactly the same. There's no change. So if you manage to build any, say in the next 5 years to 10 years, any of the water storage that they're talking about, how would you distribute it? Because there's nothing in the bond that talks about distribution. So that's another area you get nothing. Now let's talk about who controls the water in the state of California. Does anybody know who really controls the water in the state of California?
Bottlers.
No. It is the environmentalists. They control 51% of the water creation in the state of California. 51%. That's a lot of control over water that is used for other purposes other than ag, drinking water, and other resources. And that's not the way we think. They talk about endangered species, well, you know, the delta smelt, all the rest of these things that they want to protect, the salt intrusion that comes in and out. Don't fool yourself again. What the environmentalists want is more control over the water. They want to take and increase that 51% so that they have more use of the water for whatever purposes they want, but they sure as heck don't want you to grow your ag. They talk about stream protection and quality of water, adding to the quality of water in the state of California. How many people have heard recently over the last decade of water contamination toxicity that has caused the deaths of anybody in the state of California? There isn't any. Can you tell me anybody that would deliberately, unless of course they, I won't use the word, deliberately did it, but there is nobody that is going to harm the water supply in the state of California. But the extremists, the environmental extremists, will have you believe that there's a lot of dirty water in the state of California. Which is why, if we go back to just a second on this energy side for a moment, you talk about fracking. You ask anybody in the environmental side about the use of water in fracking, they will tell you, well, it causes surface contamination. For the last 60 years in the state of California, fracking has been going on, there's been no contamination. So I don't know what cleanup that they're talking about. And of course, part of this is that Governor Brown wants to pay back some of his environmental extremists. He wants to give them something. He wants to appease that crowd because that's what he has to do. Now they also talk about new dams. $2.7 billion for building new dams. Well, there's many cases in the state of California where they say there's no water damming left to be done. But even if they did, we'll go back to the environmentalists because while they control 51%, they're also going to say, oh no, we can't build a dam because we're in the process of maybe tearing down some dams. So which is it? Which way do you want? I think they need a good psychiatrist. Even if you could build a dam, it's going to take you 10 years to get through the permitting process to find out just exactly what the capabilities are. So you're not going to get some dams. And by then, we will have had rain. And the minute we have a couple of good years of rain, if we even get a small El Nino, people are going to begin to quiet down because they're going to go back to their ways of ignoring it. And that's usually not necessarily a good idea. And then, of course, they'll say, well, we have to start sometime, don't we? If we don't start now, 10 years down the road, well, you can say that just about everything else that has gone on in the past where they didn't start it, we don't have it today. And even if you tried to start building new dams today, you're not going to get them for 10 years plus. So that's the other part of the sham. Groundwater recapture. They talk about that in the bond. Storage, reservoirs. Again, how would they build the infrastructure to distribute this? Because there's no wording in the bond that says that we can get the water from one place to the next. They certainly didn't finish the California aqueduct system, so why would they start and finish anything else? They wouldn't. Now again, let's go back, they talk about cleanup of the groundwater pollution. And they've identified $1 billion that they would use for clean water. Now that's a lot of money for clean water that we already have. Where are we going to spend that $1 billion in cleaning up water? I didn't know that there was that much dirty water out in the state of California. And I don't think most people do either, because it isn't there. It is not there. So again, when you look at the bond itself as a whole, you got to look at who's in control, who wants more power, because it isn't about the water. There's nothing about this bond that is about the water. It's about control. It's about control of each and every one of you and the use of your water and how you're going to get it, how much you're going to pay for it, when you can use it, when you can't use it. That's what it's about. So when you look at the total amount, $7.4 billion, even if you were to pare it down, if you were to bring it down to the lowest possible denominator and say, well, okay, we can spend $2.7 billion for these other things that might be about water, you're still not going to get it, so it wouldn't make any difference. I hesitate to put my glasses on because then I'd let you know that I can't see. Well, the bottom line with the whole water bond is that it's probably going to pass because there's a great deal of emotional liberal Democrats out there in the state of California that are going to vote for this, thinking that, oh, we're going to get water. All we have to do is spend the money. Water's going to come. There's no way that you can, in good conscience, vote for $7.4 billion for a bond that's not about water. You can't do it. Because if you do, you're just going down the path of where they want you to go. You're self-imposing control on yourselves without even being aware of the fact, because there's no water in there. But they're going to control what you already have. So do not, in any way, shape, or form, vote for this water bond. Even if we lose, it's better to vote no than it is not to vote at all. And of course, if we can bring that percentage to a little greater level so that instead of, what if the bond passes 51 to 49 and wins by 51? There'll be at least a little notification in the state of California that almost half of the people weren't in favor of it. So we have a duty and a responsibility not to allow them to impose these kinds of taxes on us that don't apply to what they call the water bond in the first place. So do not vote for this. And I'll answer any questions on these three afterwards too as well. Now let's bring it home a little bit closer, San Luis Obispo County. Let's talk about Measure L14, the Cuesta College bond, $275 million. Now again, you may think that that is a lot of money for a community college in the county of San Luis Obispo. Well, let's talk about the dynamics of place for just a minute, because I think it has a role in this, the dynamics of place. We all live in this beautiful place called San Luis Obispo County, the North County, Atascadero, Templeton, Paso Robles, all the other places here in this county. Beautiful place. And we have a responsibility to ourselves and as well to the community to make sure that we have the best facilities that we possibly could. Now, part of that is the dynamics of place. Without having real dynamics and a place that you call home, it's just another place. It isn't anything different than anybody else. And goodness knows, we all travel around the country, and what do we see every place we go? The same things that we see here. I can go to Medford, Oregon, and there's a Target store, there's a Best Buy, there's all the same things that we got. They got the Walmart, everything else. But we have to differentiate ourselves from other places. We have to make sure that we have the quality that we're looking for. Doing a little research, that I looked at places that have community colleges that are highly recognized in the area in which they exist. And they're well respected. And certainly they serve a huge purpose of the community in providing an educational opportunity for those people that don't want to start out at a four-year college or those people that want to take some classes. Now, does the college itself have a responsibility back to the community? Absolutely they do. Especially when they're asking us for $275 million. It's not as if they're asking us for, a couple of bucks here and there. This is a pretty good, hefty chunk. When you stop and think about it, the County of San Luis Obispo only has 272,000, 275,000 people. So when you do the math, it's a lot of money. And it's not just for the students, it's for everybody in the community, whether you participate, attend, etc. Now let's talk about the economics of the community college, because I think that plays a role. I think it plays an important part when you make your decision as to whether or not you want to hand them over some money, $275 million. The same thing with Cal Poly. Cal Poly is one of the most respected universities in the country, and we're lucky to have it right here in our backyard. Not everybody that goes to Cal Poly stays here. They go on to other places, they attend the university, and they start their career somewhere else. Hopefully, we can pull some of those people back. Certainly, we hope that the people that go to the community college will, again, stay here and provide a higher quality and a better labor pool, because we all talk about jobs. We want jobs in the community. We want to have the best opportunity to have more jobs in San Luis Obispo County, North County, South County, wherever it is. We want those jobs here. Well, in order for anybody to start a business here, you got to have a labor pool. And in order to have a labor pool, you got to have some education, some training. And it isn't just service sector jobs. It is specific training jobs that take place. They have a respected nursing program there. Certainly healthcare is either exploding or imploding, depending on how you look at it with BHO care. But the fact remains is that we're going to need those types of jobs, and we hope that they will stay here. So you look at the economics of this. Is $275 million too high to invest for overall community improvement? Think of it this way in terms of your return on your investment. Anytime you make a decision to put something into your home or your business, you're looking for a return on your investment. What am I going to get back out of it? What's the WIFM for me? Bringing it down. What's the WIFM for me? What's in it for me? Well, certainly there's good investments in your house and there's bad investments in your house. Put in a swimming pool, you're not going to get anything back for 15 years plus. It's a bad investment. Do something with the kitchen, you're likely to get it back within 2 years should you decide to sell. The same thing when you take a look at the Cuesta College bond. What am I going to get back for this? Is the community going to be more respected for having a highly recognized community college? What will it do for property values? What will it do for the labor pool? What will it do for businesses? Will it help them? If it helps them, does it help me? Does it help the community as a whole? So ultimately, the decision is, what do I get out of it? Now, when I say that the Cuesta College has a responsibility to us, when they're asking for $275 million, there's also the responsibility that we have to understand that people that attend some of these classes that are just continuing education classes, they should bear a higher economic responsibility of paying for those because they are the ones that have the interest in it. We should not be providing subsidies or support for people that want to take something that is unrelated to the general public. If you want to take a class in, what do they have? Knitting. I don't remember if they have knitting or not, but that's your decision. You should pay for that. Not the rest of us. But at least the venue to pay for it is there and it exists, rather than going somewhere else. So the evaluation is simply that. What do I get back for it? What does the community get back for it? What does the county get back for it? What do the people that attend it get out of it? Because they're furthering their education. And once you arrive at those conclusions, then you can decide whether or not you want to participate and give them the $275 million. Now, I know as a conservative, every time somebody uses the word tax, you're supposed to say automatically, no, I'm not voting for that. Well, I have a sense that I'm more in support for the Cuesta College bond than I'm not in support for it, because I see strong community value. I've read it backwards and forwards. I've talked to Dr. Stork about it repeatedly. I've looked at the measure itself. It's well written. It's specific. It has a general purpose to it. So ultimately, again, you're going to have to make up your own decision. Don't base it on what I say, simply because I think it's a good idea. But having Cuesta College remain here, stay here, I think is just as important as Cal Poly staying here and any of our other valued, high-paying business companies that are here in San Luis Obispo County. It serves a purpose. So that's 2 down. Let's bring it as close as home as possible because we're right here in the Atascadero. The Atascadero is asking for $58 million.
More.
Is it more now? Did they go up?
No, it's more because you're going to have a double your tax.
Yeah. We know that, but the ask is $58 million. Once again, when you look at education, we are ranked 29th in the world in terms of math. We're ranked 47th in the state in the United States in terms of math, sciences, and English language arts. That's pretty bad. And that's been going on for 40 years in the state of California, and most people will say that no matter how much money you throw at it, you're not going to get anything back, you're not going to get any improvements. And that may be the case. But this is your community. And you can equate this thing to the same thing as the Cuesta College bond. Is it time, is it necessary to put some improvements in the infrastructure in the Atascadero Unified School District? Is it going to improve student participation? Subliminally, maybe yes. Is it going to improve the capabilities of teachers? Subliminally, maybe yes. Is it a good thing to let the infrastructure of the Atascadero Unified School District deteriorate? Because apparently deferred maintenance has caused a great deal of this over the years. Is it a good idea to let that happen more? Probably not. Now, I've been familiar with a lot of bonds because down in Thousand Oaks we passed 3 of them in two different school districts down there. And there's no question that the return on investment paid off. And again, you have to go back to locally, bringing it as close to home as possible. What's the return? What's in it for me? Am I going to get something out of it? Whether I have any children in the district, whether I have any opportunity to send children to the district, or whether I'm old enough, as we look at across the room, most people don't have any kids in this district. What do you get out of it? Well, when you look at and I've gone over it repeatedly, and you look at some of the reasons that they have for it. Number one, well, let's talk about one of the things too. They're going to have an independent citizens oversight committee. Now, talking to some of the council members and the mayor of the city of Atascadero on the road sales tax, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to have an oversight committee to make sure that the funding that is collected is specifically spent for that. They're going to have the same thing that does this for the Atascadero school bond. So you're going to get some qualified people that are going to be on the committee that are going to pay attention to this. They're not going to let the money be squandered. There's not going to be any administration salaries, which simply means that we're not going to use the money to pay teachers and pay union dues or anything like that. It's going to go strictly for the infrastructure improvements in the school system itself, and in many cases, it is sorely needed. Now, as I went through some of the things that they want to do, there's nothing in the scope of the project of improvements that is not a qualified improvement. Some of these things need to be done if we're going to continue to progress with the education facilities in our community for the future. You can't expect students to be able to participate in a very fast-moving technological world if they're not able to participate in the same thing, even if they're starting at some of the lowest grade levels there are. You do need the technology. You do need to have improvements in terms of the infrastructure of the school itself. And when I say, will it help them subliminally? We all know that if you stay in a lousy hotel room, you don't feel very good. If you stay in a great hotel room, you feel pretty good. And the same thing with students, I think. If they think the community is invested in them, I think they'll invest back in us. Which simply means that you've got to make a decision for yourselves. Am I willing to vote yes on $58 million for the Atascadero School Bond? Now, I don't have a stake in this fork. I can't vote for this. So I can't make a qualified decision in terms of living in the community and deciding for myself whether or not this is a good idea. If you live in Atascadero and you're part of the Atascadero Unified School District, you're the ones that are going to have to make the decision. You have to say to yourself and your neighbors and your friends, I think this is a good idea or it's a bad idea. But at least when you make that statement, be ready to qualify it. So it isn't, it's a tax, I gotta say no. Because that may not always be the most fair way to do it. Just because the word tax or bond is involved in it. But I think in this case here, these three bond measures, propositions, are very important to us in the state of California, and they can be tied to just about everything else that's going on